Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss current affairs and gazette for today, 14th of March 2022. Welcome and good evening to all of you. Thank you for attempting these three questions. Well appreciated the points that you have written here. Amlan, Bhabani, Netra, Kriti, all of you welcome. Hi Ashish. Amlan and Kim, good evening to you as well. Hima joining a little late, welcome. And Vivek, good evening to you as well. All right, these many people writing answers here. Good to see the kind of practice and habit that you have already gained for yourself. Keep doing this for yourself, for your own development, right? So let's begin this discussion. Today we have quite a few interesting articles for you today. The three updates, one on Geneva Convention on war crimes. Because of a couple of attacks in Ukraine, they're on maternity hospitals. The second one is on India's participation in United Nations Peacekeeping Force, and this is from the perspective of women empowerment. The third one is on pharmaceutical industry scheme, a scheme in which government has passed 500 crore rupees to develop pharmaceutical clusters and technology development. These are the three updates this day in history dedicated to Pi Day. You'll know why. Featured news on United Nations Environment Program Frontiers Report, a very, very important report discussing three aspects of environment: noise pollution, forest fires, and something called as phenology that deals with the changing climate, studying of it, and the changing environment accordingly. You will understand this report through very interactive and beautiful images taken from the EP report itself, Frontier report itself. So this is a part of the featured news today. Three different topics will be covered through this single report. Very beautiful. Image of the day: the Museum of the Future in UAE. Terms and concepts. The three terms that we have: one is Kashmir-based carpets being QR code and sent abroad. This is one. The second one is NSA's Security Conclave, Colombo Security Conclave. The third one is biological and toxin weapon convention. And the fourth one is away from reactor facility. What are these terms and why in news? Editorials that we have: the world is in a state of flux on international relation. The second one is again on Indian Ocean Rim, important editorial, a little complex. And the third one is on India's opportunity for wheat export because of the crisis in west of Asia and east of Europe. Today's case is on a lady who's been helping children with differently abled capabilities. Let's start this discussion. Hi Smriti, good evening. Hi Tiyasha, Gopal, good evening. I know you, Tiyasha is a little late, but Smriti, Gopal, you can try and attempting these questions sometimes. We have posted quite a few questions, and try attempting one or two questions maybe, and then you can see, you can also see how other people are responding to these questions. It would be great to see you answer. Because only through answering do we develop perspective. Our mind starts to exercise. The electrons will start to move from one place to another. And this is how only retrieval of information helps us absorb a little more or rephrase and recalibrate our replies. And that is what is required in the exams. More than taking out the right content is more important. That's what I have learned from what the people who succeed share. So let's start with the first one. Today's first update is on Geneva Convention on War Crimes. Okay. Now, Russia has categorically said we have never gotten indulged in any war crimes, and we have not done anything that is beyond freeing the people, Russian minority people in Ukraine. But then here we see in this image, this is an attack which happened in the city of I think Mariupol, where the maternity wards in a hospital were attacked. You can very well see in this next image, people being taken out, a lady being taken out of this particular hospital, right? So this is where the question comes: has Russia committed war crimes or not? And investigation, this is the complexity here. The investigation says that we can only accuse Russia of committing these crimes if we can have only if we can have an international fact-finding commission under the Geneva Conventions and the protocol. But having a fact-finding commission work this is something questionable. Why? Because Russia withdrew from this segment of the treaty right in 2019. So therefore, having an international fact-finding commission go to Ukraine and those parts of the places and then have Russia accused of this is question. The second part of this communication is why we are not able to accuse Russia is because of the orders. Who gave the orders for this kind of extermination? And because the people, soldiers on the ground or the people who fired the weapons on the ground, they were merely obeying their duties. The person who committed these crimes, their crimes must be under telephonic conversations or written conversations or communicated otherwise. Retrieving all those technicalities is a challenge. So these are the two major reasons because of which conviction is a tough game here. Having said that, we had discussed what war crimes mean, and primarily in layman's term, what we can call of these crimes as those kind of attacks which are not proportional. Right? If you remember, we had discussed this. Indians are wanting to have a fist fight, and Pakistanis are there with a bazooka. This is not proportional. One must have a proportional level of fight. Because if a person is not in armed conflict, you can't introduce arms and start fighting. You've seen that in movies, no? Heroes don't fight with a weapon if the villain does not have a weapon. They also throw their weapon and they come into fist fighting, right? So proportionality is one. Then segregation of crowd is another one, right? Civilian crowd must be segregated and identified, right? So a couple of important things which Russia might not have followed in this war, right? Might not have followed, right? So these treaties, these convention on the war crime treaties, Geneva Convention treaties, they were signed in the year 1949, and under them they had quite a few treaties, 4 treaties earlier and then 3 more protocols which were to be followed, one of which Russia has gotten away from and says that International War Commission Treaty, we are not a part of it, right? So the 4 treaties, what are they on? They are about ethical and legal international standards for humanitarian treatment of those impacted by ongoing war. Who are the people? Not only civilians casualties or people impacted in the war area, but also military personals, right? So the 4 treaties, we will quickly understand what they are about, right? Treatment of non-combatant also and prisoners of war, and not use NBC, nuclear, biological and the chemical weapons on these people. If they have given up, if they say white flag, we don't want to fight, why are you using these weapons? So this is what is war crime, right? So the 4 treaties are these: protect the wounded and sick soldiers on land. This is one. So medical units and medical transport, this will never be attacked. This is one. Then second part of the treaty is doing the same thing at sea, protecting the medical supplies at sea, protecting those people who are sick of sea or sick of the war during the sea voyage. So these are the first 2 parts. The third one is humane treatment of all the prisoners of war or people in captivity, giving them equality of treatment, giving medicines, hygiene, right to religious, intellectual, physical activities of the prisoner. All right, this is the third part, and the fourth one is on civilians, protect civilians in the occupied territory. And one of the segments of the extension of this treaty, that is a part of one of the contracts, was formation of International Fact-Finding Commission, which of course Russia is not a part of. So these are the couple of issues, right? And then what are war crimes? You can summarize this in 3 words: brute force, proportionality, and distinguishing civilian versus military crowd, right? We can't fire on the civilian crowd using the proportionality and never using the brute force. However, if you want greater details, you can just mention all these part or a part of this. Grave breaches of Geneva Convention, for example, willful killing, right? So when we are killing, have you not seen these kind of images in movies? Prisoners being named and then shot dead. Absolutely, this used to happen in world wars. And the person was not even given a right to trial. So these are the kind of human rights which people have been devoid to, and this amounts to war crime. So willful killing, torture or inhuman treatment, or using biological experiments, willfully causing great suffering, not even mandated or for the kind of crime that the person has done. The other person also has merely followed what was the protocol in the war. So why giving them great sufferings for this, right? So this is one, this is the second part. The third one is compelling a prisoner of war or other protected hostile power, willfully depriving the prisoners of war or other protected persons regular trial. So not giving them trial. These are the parts of the war crimes, right, which are mentioned of inside the Geneva Convention, and this is a part under the courts. So these are the parts that have been used. You can use four phrases for this: brute force, proportionality, and distinguishing the person from the civilians, right? And treatment meted out more than what is the penalty, right? So this is the update from here. We have updated the same thing in the snapshot here. What amounts to war crime, right? And what are the components of Geneva Convention 1949, the four parts of it, the fourth Geneva Convention, and additional protocols, some of which Russia is not a part of. So this is the update here from the first article. Also, if there is a compelling case for prosecuting combatants of war crime, evidences and trials will begin at what place? International Criminal Court. And you people know what International Criminal Court is famous for. It is famous for holding the crimes against the African nationals and not against the European countries. So Russia being a European country, that way it will be tough to incriminate Russia that way. Not only this, there have been previous attempts by ICC also. 2 attempts in 2014, but then they could not incriminate Russia. Not only that, the conviction rate has been dismally low with such a budget, and dismally low. So ICC doubtful that they will proceed with a thing like this, but then since it is in news, these are popular questions, they can definitely get asked, right? So that's the reason we covered it. The second update is on Indian women at United Nations Peacekeeping Force. Before getting in, some updates from here. Indian women, oh yes, you people wrote an answer on this, no, right now, Indian women and their participation. So yes, very well, very rightly pointed. One is right to equality, right to choice. So right to choice, and what you rightly mentioned, Ashish, right to profession, that's a part of the inferred rights, Article 21. And thank you, I think Kriti mentioned the articles. So right to equality, right to freedom, start quoting all this, because Supreme Court talks like this, Supreme Court talks like this, and the Constitution talks like this, right? So these are the prime rights. People have the right to choose what they want to profess in the country, and this is how they will be subjected to these rights. And what are the enabling conditions? Proper infrastructure, create fundings, change the mentality and setup of the people. See, what is military training about? It is about changing the perspectives, including the discipline in life, including the perspective of keeping nation first, society first. Is it not? Nation first, protecting the nation, protecting the society. So whenever there is a disaster, not only National Disaster Response Force, but also the defense forces come to aid. So when we keep this in mind, can we not keep women also along with this in mind? Yes, absolutely. And women can participate in combat or non-combat missions also. Not everything in armed forces is about combat. There is also an education corps. I don't know if you people know, Army Education Corps. They are about teaching the armed forces personnel. There is a medical corps. There is a supply corps. There is ordnance corps. There are many such corps. That means segments of the armed forces or departments of armed forces. There are many such departments which are non-combatants, right? And there is signals. They are into signals. There is EME, right? So mechanical engineering is also a part of it. Computers is a part of it. Many of it. So women have now become an active part from India to the United Nations Peacekeeping Force. That's a very great development for India, right? Let me show you an image of the biggest contributors to UN peacekeeping operations. India has been among top 3 quite a few times. See, India has been presenting around 5,500 armed personnel every year, right? Armed forces personnel. Not that everybody here is combatant, but then 5,500, and then the maximum that is with Bangladesh, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Nepal, India, Pakistan, Egypt, Indonesia, China, Ghana, right? So when people go to these India, so it's a very common thing if you see India is in the top 3 providers of peacekeeping forces. I wonder why aren't the Western nations here? Majorly those nations which are getting impacted of this, Rwanda, Ethiopia, right? Indonesia, Ghana, these are the countries, or the countries, developing countries, which want to leave a mark on United Nations. Those are a part of it, right? Biggest contributors. When you see personnels getting into United Nations, they they wear a standard uniform for United Nations, and this is the uniform. This is called as a green, this is called as a blue beret cap. This is green beret cap, different kinds of cap, but United Nations standardizes its caps or uniform in the light blue color, blue beret, right? And then they have a flag here and in the arm as well, country's flag, right? So this is the update here. About the women specifically, women have been considered as very important stakeholders during turmoil, during riots or internal issues, civil strife. You know why? The prime reason is this, that during these kind of civil strife, forced displacement of people, most of the persons who are impacted, 75% I have mentioned, the United Nations report itself, post displacement report, it states very clearly that it is women and children who are getting impacted, women and children. And if there are women personnel, they are more sensitive. They are already sensitized. Their training is such, the natural attitude and aptitude is such to be able to help people who are impacted of these kind of issues. So if we have women combatants or women people in the special missions, there will be greater sensitivity towards the impacted crowd, right? So they are trained, they are sensitized, they are aware of the trauma that women and children have undergone, and that is why this is a very good step, right? Having more women personals. According to United Nations, of around 95,000 peacekeepers in 2020. See, when I showed you this image, this is around 1 lakh people, and this is 2021. The other image says 2020, 95,000 personnel. Women comprise 4.8% of military contingents, right? So people with guns, and 11% of police units. Meanwhile, around 34% of total personnel in peacekeeping missions were women, right? So that is the point, that even if they don't want to fight in the fighting missions, there are other ways in which they can contribute. All right. So this is the update. Indian women at United Nations peacekeeping. Now my question to you is, my dear friends, when you spend 10 minutes with me on this update, right, what do we learn? We learn about United Nations. I always try and give you the requisite information, because these kind of things you can always put. India's participation in United Nations peacekeeping, it is always in top 5, always in top 5 or 6, even top 3 sometimes. So we contribute these forces. Of course, United Nations pays us extra for this. The payment is different for these personnel who are chosen. They're the best of the best. But then this is also a thing of repute, that we are sending our forces to a place of conflict. And yes, something more. So something more about United Nations is that United Nations peacekeeping forces, they would never go ahead with a frontal attack. They will only be defending. Whenever they use their weapon, they will be only defending the mandate, that is to maintain peace. They will never be the first ones to even participate in crimes, or they will never be the ones to even fire, right? If there are two sides, for example, if you remember, I don't know if you people have seen a movie called as Hotel Rwanda. It is based on the true events that happened in between Hutus and Tutsis in Rwanda and Burundi, right? So there was a huge scale massacre of the Tutsi tribes by the Hutu tribes. And when Hutus would be fighting Tutsis, United Nations peacekeeping forces would only try to maintain calm. They cannot fire at Hutus in that case, saying that they are committing crimes against the other persons, right? They have to be neutral observers. They have to try and maintain calm there. They cannot participate actively at all. This is the first mandate. The second is that only when asked to protect the mandate, that is to maintain peace, they can intrude, and that too after levels and levels of bureaucratic permission. This comes not from India. These permissions would come directly from United Nations, New York, right? So this is the kind of hazard that people are into. Now, getting back to the point, when you spend 15 minutes with me on this article, what did we cover? That's the main point. What did we cover? We understood by United Nations, about United Nations peacekeeping forces in general, India's participation here, the participation of developing countries here. We understood here the role of women, right? So you can start giving these kind of cases, examples in your answers. Revise and take the best out of every update that we give you, right? So this is one. The second one is here. The third one is how United Nations peacekeeping forces works. How they work, right? So they are there to maintain peace, not to offend or not to become a part of the war. So do remember these kind of updates. These 4 or 5 updates will be important and worthy. Whenever you talk of United Nations, India's participation in international arena, these are the things that you can put in, right? So you look at every update that we provide from the perspective of how it is good for you. So Rome Statute of ICC talks about the definition of war crimes, right? The one that I showed you right now, right? So similarly, look at the, all the 4 conventions, right? So personals who are under medical treatment on land or on water, they will be taken care of well, right? The third one is on the fourth one is on civilians, and the third one is on human treatment for all the people and people involved in who are taken as prisoners of war, right? So people to be given equality, freedom of religion while they are in under any any kind of jail or places, right? So this is the second update. So look at every update from the perspective of how you can utilize it, and this is how you will be able to reduce your notes. The third update is on pharmaceutical industry, SPI, strengthening of pharmaceutical industry. What has happened here? The government, Ministry of Chemical Fertilizers, under which the pharmaceutical sector government initiative lies, they have spent some 500 crore rupees for the coming 5 years. What do they want to do? The same thing that you had asked me last time on Friday. You had asked me, what is the reason that the government or India is not able to increase the production of APIs or intermediaries? Remember, this is where the government has started the scheme, 5 years, and they've injected 500 crore rupees. But through this, are we going to initiate technology development? Not only this is only a momentum, a quick momentum under which government is trying to have a cluster based approach. It has recognized places around the whole country. I'll show you the map in a short while. And this is the place where they say, why don't all of you pharmaceutical industry, people, so Strides Pharma, Glenmark, Dr. Reddy's, Sun Pharma, these are some of the biggest companies in India. So why don't you all merge and have a cluster approach where you can all merge together, just like food parks, textile parks, create a pharmaceutical park, right? Cluster based approach, and I will set you up a plug and play facility there. I will set up the whole infrastructure there, and now you only have to set a base and start working. Also, we are also prospering research and development facilities here. See, if you remember the various parts of the supply chain, value chain that I talked to you about the pharmaceutical industry, the first one was the innovator, after that the person who was industrial producer, and then the people who are distributing the medicines, and the end user. These were the 4 components. See, along with that, there's another chain. For example, production of the raw material, and then intermediaries, APIs, and after that is the final product, that is drug, final drug creation, right? The end industry, that is the one with consumer or the drug industry, these are not as profitable now. So therefore, this second level, which is of creation of API or intermediary, and the level of mass production, these are being monetized by many stakeholders. These are the parts which are getting monetized. There is more profit here. If you remember, I had clearly mentioned that the end segment, there is a lot of negotiation and there is a lot of generic medicine present, because of which the participation of many people and gaining profit is tough. So end user profit is tough, drug creation, people are moving into API, and this is the reason that even Indian companies are not having a lot of profits. This is the reason that they are entering API business, right? So they will be able to replace Chinese APIs. All right, there is demand. We had studied that in Friday itself. There will be increased demand of pharmaceutical sector goods from India around the whole world. There will be 3 times plus growth here in the coming years, right? So have a look at the clusters that we are speaking of. See, captive research and development units in dark green, contract research and development units, bulk drug cluster, bulk drug, formulation cluster, right? Formulation clusters are those places where we are creating those formulation APIs, right? So you can see many places in South, Maharashtra, Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, then we have Gujarat, or somewhere in the north, we are creating these kind of clusters. Government is only promoting their initial venture, right? All they have to do is promote the initial venture, and then the companies will themselves set the objective straight to be able to develop the pharmaceutical industry. So see, components of the scheme: assistance to pharmaceutical industry for common facilities. What common facilities? Electricity, water, roads, transportation, right? Logistical, yard, all those things, R&D labs, testing labs, effluent treatment. All these are the things that government will help them set up. Pharmaceutical technology upgradation assistance schemes, right? So giving them some promotion schemes right here, right? This is the update here. This day in history dedicated to Pi Day. Pi is what? The first three digits of this fraction are 3.14. What is the month? 3rd March. And what is the date today? 14th. 14th March. This is why we celebrate today as the Pi Day. All right, reminds me of the movie Life of Pi. If you haven't watched it, worth a watch. Beautiful movie, right? Pi Day today. This is an irrational number, right? Because we don't have a number now. Firstly, 3.14, and it never ends. The fraction never ends. It just keeps going, and there is no repetition at all. Also, there is no number which can represent. There is no fraction which can actually represent the actual decimal value of it. 22/7 does not represent this value. So this is Pi Day. Pi jod ke, right? Feature news for today is on United Nations Environment Program Frontiers report. I was looking forward to discussing this report over last 20 days. It came back 20 days back, but today we will understand all three of this very beautifully covered. The first one is on noise pollution, the second one is on fire, wildfires, and the third one is on a very I don't know if you know that concept, but then environment and how the organisms behave in sync with the environment or in dissync with the environment, possibly because of climate change, possibly because of diurnal change, temperature change, humidity, winds. So we'll understand phenology here in details, right? So this is the feature news for today. I have a lot of images showing you what these things are about. So beautiful examples if you are intellectually oriented. Image of the day is on Museum of the Future. This is in Dubai, right? So I don't know if you remember, we had covered one of the libraries in China. I think it was in Beijing. The library, it was a multiple layered library, and that was one of the largest libraries in the whole world. Now similarly, this Museum of the Future in Dubai is creating this to create an impression around the whole world that we are research and development centric as well. We have finances, research and development centric. If you remember, Dubai wants to move out of its traditional perspective with which it is viewed, that is oil economy. It wants to show itself as a place of tourism, a place of intellect, a place of advanced modern places, right? India has had a free trade agreement also with them. So this particular museum here, it has got quite a few floors here. It might seem as an oval shaped thing, but then quite a few floors, and none of the edges here are sharp. They're all very finely done edges. The beautiful monument, and many science technology personnel, scientists, they can also come here and learn a lot of things about all of it, right? This is the update. Let me see. Museum, prettiest one. Yeah, very, very, very beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. State of the art. Absolutely. Took 9 years, Amlan says. Okay, Hima's internet is not working. Interesting thing is that it gets power from solar only, 4,000 megawatt. Okay. The power required by different cities, Delhi state itself requires around 5,000 megawatt power. So I am not sure if that place would require 4,000 megawatt. I'm not sure. 4,000 megawatt is quite a lot of power to produce. Yes, Kriti, 10 convictions only by ICC, dismal state of affairs from African countries in 19 years, right? Since 2001 formation, and $200 million of budget every year. Amlan says, why no Western countries, especially America? I told you people, when the funders, when people who are funding these projects are from USA, how would you be able to prosecute them, right? One example of this, if you remember, I had discussed the CCIT, Convention on Terrorism, right? India said the definition of terrorism should be those people indulge in war crimes. Exactly what is written here, war crimes. So America says we will not have them covered under war crimes if they are forces of the country itself. if American defense forces, American defense personals or marines have conducted these war crimes at some places, we will not have them covered under war crimes. As simple. So America is, this is how it presents itself. United Nations will not be able to, they'll veto this. So this is the thing. Russia has moved away from one of the segments of this war crimes only, right? Geneva Convention, I just mentioned to you. So this is how they try to evade the limitations. Kim says, my cousin who served in Congo said Western countries provide other resources. That's why they don't provide HR. Okay. Hi, Kanupriya, welcome. Dubai Expo. All right, great enough. Expo. Another important thing about Expo is that India is one of the countries which is looking at holding a tourism potential for the country. So tourism is not only for natural sites, this is also for man-made sites and also for conventions. So medical tourism, convention tourism, natural tourism, and then we have man-made places tourism. All those things are here. For example, what are these? UNESCO sites, heritage sites, natural sites, and these are, what did I mention about this? Yeah. This is hospital tourism, medical tourism, and then there is something called as convention tourism. This is the one where we hold Oscar events held in Los Angeles, right? Similarly, we have Bangkok holding events which have one hall having a capacity of 10,000 people. We don't have such halls. Goa is building some of it, right? So that is the place where we hold the film festivals. But then for this kind of convention like Expo, Dubai Expo, India is now starting to hold these kind of conventions, because this is how will be able to generate more business, more revenues for us and promote ourselves. This is what UAE is doing to itself. All right. So the first update here on terms and concepts is the QR code based GI tag. See, let me show this to you. These are the hand woven, hand knotted carpets which are being weaved in Kashmir. Can you imagine the kind of intricate work it would be? If you touch a carpet like this, it itself is a feeling of goosebumps. Now these carpets which are getting exported, nobody knows where they're coming from. You put a tag and say it is coming from Damdama, it will be that place. If you write Honolulu, it will be that place, right? But then this is where is the difference, where now these carpets will be GI tagged with Kashmir, the place of origin, the person who has created it, and the kind of fabric that has been used here. So this is how Kashmir work will be popularized around the whole world. It is the first time a GI tagged product has been sent. The GI tagged Kashmir carpets have been sent abroad. So this is the good utility of the product, right? And scientific innovation. The first ever consignment of QR based GI tag carpet was exported to Germany. Now this is what will help India's carpet compete with carpets from Iran, from Persia, from Turkey, right? Hand knotted carpets. See, the QR code label cannot be copied or misused, which will discourage the counterfeit product of carpets. All right, so going to encourage what we have in Kashmir. All right, great industry. The second one is NSA level security conclave, right? Also called as Colombo Security Conclave, was held in Maldives. We will have an editorial on this also. So 3 countries which are a part of this: India, Sri Lanka, and Maldives. Mauritius and a new member, and then Bangladesh, Seychelles will be the observers right now. See, the idea has been to promote India at the center of Indian Ocean rim, center of it. So India has already declared itself to be the next security provider in this Indian Ocean region, and this is why many of these countries have started to hold events also, right? So events where India and Sri Lanka are participating in naval exercises, or India, Sri Lanka, and Maldives together are participating in naval exercises. Start relating it to weaponization of trade. When the opponent has got, when China has got 2 or 3 of these nuclear powered submarines, they can venture out far distant, in distant lands, right? Suppose they have also got a naval base in Sri Lanka. They also got naval bases around, right, in the western Indian Ocean region. Now when they venture out and they come close to India's economic zone, exclusive economic zone, or India's friends economic zone, this is where India will be able to counter them when they have these kind of associations. India is increasing that kind of association in Indian Ocean rim region, right? So net security provided, that is the keyword, and the and the Colombo Security Conclave. These are the keywords to be used here, right? Not only the conventional prevention of any bully, but also marine pollution, oceanic diversity. Then we have things like narcotics trafficking, all of them. Then IUU, include IUU, all the places. I hope you know the full form. Please write it down. IUU fishing. Please write down the full form of IUU. All right. So this is the update from here. There are questions, please post. India, Sri Lanka, Maldives. Biological and Toxin Weapon Convention. So an update from the war between Russia and Ukraine. The update is this, that Russia has accused Ukraine of having created biological, these are called as BWC, Biological Weapons Convention, Biological and Toxin Weapons. It has accused Ukraine of creating these with the help of USA in Ukraine soil, and possibly, this is what they are going to, use as an alibi to invade further places. The update is this, that Ukraine has been invaded from various places, and now they are approaching Russian forces, and the people who are in favor of Russia, they are approaching the capital Kiev. This is the update. On one hand, China has been also warned that if it assists Russia in helping against the economic sanctions, China also will be punished. So let's see, this is a war between the countries, but then this is a very calculated war. People are imposing sanctions on Russia. USA is imposing sanctions on Russia, thinking of what kind of imports does it have from Russia? How much will it get impacted? Or what are the pros and cons of it? So, right? So when you see the hard, naked realities of war, you people yourself have seen war crimes happening, right? International Criminals Court not functioning well. You have yourself seen how both the sides, how NATO has behaved during these times, right? It has distanced itself. You have seen the stand of Mr. Zelensky, the person who is who is the president of Ukraine, changing his own stand by saying now we are no more inching towards NATO, immersion in NATO, but we want peace. So you see how the war brings out the worst of all the stakeholders. Now this update is that about the Biological and Toxin Weapon Convention. See, this is the alibi. What was the reason for invasion of Afghanistan? Afghanistan was invaded by the USA. What is the word invasion? They attacked Afghanistan, saying that Osama lives here, right? USA attacked, this was in 2001. 2003, USA attacked Iraq, saying that Iraq possesses these biological and chemical weapons, and it was nowhere to be found. It was nowhere to be found that Saddam Hussein had procured or was creating these weapons. It was nowhere to be found, right? So this is the pretext in which Russia now says that possibly they have found these things. India says that whatever it is, let the Biological and Toxic Weapon Convention decide and conduct these kind of updates. Unilaterally one should not declare what one possesses. Let the convention divide it, right? Decide it, right? So this is the update here. The fourth update is away from reactor facility. What is it? Away from reactor facility. Whenever nuclear reactor has its fuel being utilized in the nuclear facility, the fuel gets spent. And even the fuel which is not being spent but it is radioactive, this fuel is not very, very safe for use. There are times when the fuel has to be kept in lead containers, because through lead it is very tough. If the lead is certain dimension of thickness is there with the lead container, the radioactive material, polonium, uranium, these will not get radiated out of that container. So for that same purpose, these facilities are used. Two kinds of facilities are used. One of the facility is called as away from reactor facility, and the second one is called as the storage pool bay facility, spent fuel storage bay facility. When the facility utilizes the particular pool, for example uranium, it has been utilized as a spent fuel. Now it is allowed to cool down. It is still lying inside the spent fuel storage or pool bay, and when it cools down, when the radiation decreases, then it is kept in away from reactor facility. But how far is it away from the reactor? It is still inside the complex itself. It is still inside the nuclear complex itself. So this is the first facility, spent fuel Bay Area, and the second facility is away from reactor facility, and these two facilities are developed at every nuclear power stations. This is one of the reasons that there is an opposition for the construction of nuclear power plant. One of the reasons is this, that there could be nuclear fallout, right? The meltdown of the nuclear core could happen, blast could happen at nuclear sites. On the other hand, one is the spent fuel. The spent fuel is disposed of somewhere close by only. And this is the reason that people have opposed this. This is why it was in news. Kudankulam village panchayat has recently adopted resolution again away from reactor facility. They don't want away from reactor facility around their village area, right? So this is the update. And if you look, there are 2 AFRs in operation at Tarapur near Mumbai in Maharashtra and one at Rawat Bhata near Kota. Okay. This is the update. Editorials. The world is in a state of flux. Self-reliance is vital. Not bad. Good theme for this article. Article points of 3 important things that have happened in the last couple of years. One is China moving more than 1 lakh of forces along India's border. The second update is USA moving away from Afghanistan. And the third is Russia attacking Ukraine. These 3 events have shown that the world is actually in a state of war and self-reliance is vital. There are many examples the editorial has very smartly given what you people can actually look at the kind of issues. Between China, USA and Russia, we have witnessed weaponization of everything. This is the point that editorial clearly mentions. Weaponization of everything. We spoke of weaponization of trade, we say weaponization of everything. Innocuous supply chain components for electronics. This is one. Minor supplements for medicine. See, minor supplements. Swift systems. Third. Energy and gas grids. Fourth. Right. Minerals and material used for political coercion. Waging war. Undermining others' interest. See. So 4 or 5 things you can straight away pick up from this weaponization of everything. That is what has been done as a fallout of the war, right? The 3 direct or indirect wars that have been imposed here, right? The world is in a state of flux. Self-reliance is vital. So all these places where there are shortcomings, India must depend on itself. This is the update here. In Indian Ocean region, security net, right? So this is the article that I was speaking of, where the this is quite a complex article. The crux is very important. The crux says that India has been providing help to various countries around itself. Bangladesh helped during the intense cyclones. Nepal helped during the natural disasters like earthquake. Now these are the countries which are not directly part of the Indian Ocean Rim region. However, they are India's neighbor. Their participation here as well becomes important, because although Nepal is a continental country, it is not it does not share a boundary with any marine area, but India is the one it is helped with while doing international trade through marine areas. So having these countries in India's favor is very good, and India claims to be net security provider, and this is the reason that India should participate with not only these countries, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Mauritius, Seychelles, not only just these countries, but also with countries like the Reunion Islands here, French, Comoros Island, Dio Garcia by USA. All of them should be in India's favor, so that this is how India is able to lead the security of Indian Ocean Rim region, right? Now please note that many of these countries, for example Sri Lanka, it was very much aware of the kind of Chinese interest and Indian interest in and around its own territory. Similarly, Maldives has got a complete history of affiliation with or against India, both of it. So India needs to be sensitive with these countries. On the other hand, India needs to maintain leadership here at all these places as well. This is what the editorial says clearly. The third update is on wheat supply. Clearly mentioned. See, we have covered this article previously. This is what happens when we know the updates. When we know the updates, these headings are reminders of what is in news. What is important from Ukraine and Russia point of view, both of them, is the imports or exports that happen from here. Russia has been exporting oil, and since oil exports, petroleum exports, gases exports have reduced, you have seen inflation happening in America as well. Although America is curtailing Russia's trade with America or with European allies, but there is inflation in America which is happening. This is decadal high inflation happening in America. I was reading this. So Russia is getting impacted, so is Ukraine, and so are European countries, and so is USA, and so is India. The whole of earth is getting impacted. See, you read the word, no? Weaponization of everything. See, it's happening. All the countries are weaponizing. So when Russia exports items like oil, petroleum, or gases, all of them are not getting exported to Europe. There's a curtailment there, and America is not exporting. There is a shortfall in international prices. There is a shortfall in international availability and rise in international prices. This is about Russia. Both the countries are responsible for a lot of wheat production, and they export it to European economies. Now this shortfall is happening, and this is where India can help in providing these kind of exports to the Western countries. So MSP, garnering finances, this is good for India, right? Indirectly good for India. But what does India not gain in this? For example, tea, coffee exports, we don't get this. Not only that, there are exports like titanium which happen to India, right? So aircraft creation, that will be tough. There are many other exports that happen from these places. For example, sunflower oil from Ukraine. India is diversifying where it can get it from, right? So Argentina and other places is what India is eyeing. Are there something that I have missed? There are quite a few things I have missed. Can you please name a couple of them here? Yes, illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing. Thank you. All of you, yeah, very good. Hima, Netra, Amlan, Ashish, Vivek. Good. Should be there in your mind, all these terms. The last update is from today's case study, and if you like this initiative, shower some love through likes, comments and showers. Today's case study is on this beautiful lady who has helped children with different kind of differently abled capacities. For example, dyslexia, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, autism, developmental disorders. All of them have been helped by Dr. Bhuvana Vasudeva from Puducherry, and she has helped them gain better standards of education. And although these might be considered as a point of taboo in society, but these people have become able citizens of the country, right? Technocrats, people with arts background, and done well in their lives. She has trained more than 6,000 such children, 6,000 students, more than that. Education is not the filling of a pot, but the lighting of a fire. All right. Bridges Learning Vidyalaya, right? This is what led her to establish this school, Bridges Learning Vidyalaya, in 1993. We need these kind of teachers, right? We don't know how far the impact of such teachers go. All right, so this is the update from today's case study, and we will quickly move to today's featured news, that is on a very interesting article, United Nations Frontiers Report. If you have questions, please type it out. Fertilizer, oh yes, potash. We import a lot of potash from these countries, and there was something more, I think high-end digital equipments, phosphate rocks. Thanks, Kriti. Yes, and we also import some high-end material like titanium. We also import something like that from Ukraine, right? And also defense suppliers, all that, right? So because of this defense supplies, it was there in the news. It was in the news that AK-207 rifles that had to be manufactured, 6 lakh of them in Uttar Pradesh, the defense corridor, they will get delayed now. Russia says it will be delayed. All right, we'll accept this. Just like me, thank you. Okay, so if you like this initiative, shower some love. We will quickly move in the second video on the feature news on Frontiers Report. That will help you a lot in understanding all these 3 kind of issues that are happening in the environment. And with that, a lot of misconceptions will be broken and some good examples will be given. Titanium for camera films. Okay, there was another entity, Kriti. Titanium is also for rocket and spacecraft buildings. AK 201, did I mention that? 207, 203. Thank you. So, see you guys in the other video, feature news for today. Thank you for being a patient participant here and beautiful answers. So, great effort there. AK 203. Thank you.